and in defense of the country. During an ordinary session of the Venezuelan parliament, the second discussion of the bill presented by the legislators of the National Assembly was approved. The law foresees, among other points, disqualification for life of politicians who call for invasions and coercive measures. The president of the parliament, Jorge Rodriguez, stated that this law pays homage to the liberating deed of Simón Bolívar in Latin America and to the struggles of the rest of the liberators who also fought for independence and sovereignty. Venezuela, as the country signed a new investment and food security agreement with Antigua and Barbuda. This is the second alliance with the Agro-Alba project after St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It should be noted that the agreement comprises a strategic cooperation in various areas of common interest between the two nations to address illegal coercive measures and promoting the development of member countries and friendly countries. The signing took place at the headquarters of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our Americas People's Trade Treaty, ALBA TCP, in Caracas, where the executive secretary of the bloc, Jorge Arreaza, thanked Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, Gaston Brown, for his confidence in the mechanism. The memorial in Colombia featured a line of colorful booths adorned with messages and flowers honoring the victims of the false positive scandals, a dark chapter in the nation's history. The scandal involved the Colombian army's alleged responsibility for over 6,000 extrajudicial killings and forced disappearances of civilians from the years 2002 to 2008. The military reportedly dressed these victims in combat gear to falsely present them as rebels, a practice that has drawn widespread condemnation. During the memorial, the names of 1,934 victims were read aloud by representatives from the Special Jurisdiction for Peace. And during a historic ceremony, Honduran Education Secretary Daniel Enriquez Ponda declared the Western Department of Copan to be free of illiteracy. This achievement of the National Illiteracy Program, promoted by the government of President Xiomara Castro, has taught more than 383,000 people to read and write. To date, 7 departments and 252 municipalities are free of illiteracy. Honduras expects to completely end illiteracy by the first quarter of the year 2025. And the Lebanese armed forces denounced the Israeli occupation army for numerous violations of the ceasefire agreement less than 24 hours from its implementation. The Lebanese armed forces said that on the 27th and 28th, Israeli forces violated several times the ceasefire agreement. These consisted of air raids and attacks with different weapons on the territory. On Wednesday, in the first hours of the effective date, the Zionist troops were reported by civilians against whom they fired to intimidate their return to their homes. An international press team was also attacked by occupation forces. The Lebanese army assured that it is conducting an investigation with the relevant authorities. And meanwhile, in Brazil, the landless movement held in São Paulo an art meeting that featured Palestinian artists. The meeting took place within the framework of the World Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people, the action that seeks to make visible the genocide perpetrated by the Israeli Zionist regime against the Palestinian population. It is important to highlight that this is not the first time that in Brazil an art meeting is held in solidarity with the Palestinian people, who since last October 7th are the victims of an escalation of the conflict with Israel. The landless movement, the MST, is an important Brazilian farmer social movement that groups around 350,000 families in its ranks and is dedicated to the struggle for the fair distribution of land. And the United States announced new sanctions against Russia. These not only threaten Russia's revenues, but also the energy security of several countries, including Turkey. Our correspondent, Yunus Soner, has the details.
The announcement came from the U.S. Treasury Department on November 21st. Among other entities, Gazprom Bank was sanctioned. The sanctions prohibit this bank from interacting with U.S. banks, as well as third parties, with secondary sanctions.
Gazprom Bank has an industrial role here in Turkey. The Russian companies established in Turkey had problems transferring capital from their country to Turkey, just like with the transfer of dividends to Russia.
Apart from trade, natural gas imports are key for Turkey, explains Serayf Oskin Nesimioglu, energy policy expert.
Turkey imports between 42 and 50% of its natural gas consumption from Russia. This implies a very large payment.
Until now, out of sanctions, Gazprom Bank, which is partly owned by the company Gazprom, played a key role here, and not only for Turkey.
Turkey secures its gas consumption through Turkstream. Here, payment was made through Gazprom. Russia receives its payment through this entity.
The Turkstream connection transports gas not only to Turkey, but from here to several European countries, including Serbia, Hungary, Italy, and Austria. Nesimioglu says the decision, which will come into force on December 20th, is generating reactions.
It may be that the countries do not support the war in Ukraine, but with their decision, moreover, in winter conditions, putting them in difficult conditions, the United States has created a club of anti-United States. We see strong statements there.
Before Parliament's Budget Committee, Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan criticized the United States for not paying any attention to the needs of other countries. Energy Minister Alparslan Bayraktar said, "If we cannot pay, we cannot receive energy." Experts see possible solutions.
All parties are going to do their best to solve the problem through bilateral agreements. Russia has already demonstrated its willingness to do so. The bill will probably be paid in smaller amounts through different banks.
The Turkish minister demanded an exemption from sanctions from the United States, as was the case with gas imports from Iran. At the same time, representatives of the foreign ministries and the ministries of energy, trade, treasury, and the central banks of Russia and Turkey met to discuss possible solutions.
A common bank can be established, and more use can be made of national currencies. Open accounts or barter can also be used. In the end, Turkey buys a lot of gas and oil from Russia, but also exports diesel and refined oil to that country.
In perspective, the expert says that this situation has once again underlined the importance of working on alternative payment systems to the West, as was discussed at the last BRICS summit.
teleSUR, Istanbul, Türkiye.
In Venezuela, the National Assembly approved the Simón Bolívar Liberator Law against the blockade